Meanwhile, Higher Education Minister Blade Nzimande has expressed deep sadness following the murder of a Capricorn TVET College student, Precious Ramabulana, who was found dead in her room of campus on Sunday and had apparently been stabbed 52 times. Limpopo police announced earlier in the morning that a suspect had been arrested for Ramabulana's brutal murder. The police minister, Bheki Cele, said the suspect, who hails from the area, was found in possession of Ramabulana's cell phone. The matter has once again raised concerns about students' safety in and off campus. The question really here is, how can the safety of students be prioritized in light of these developments? The Higher Education and Training Minister, Blade Nzimande, joins us now live from our studios in Pretoria. Minister, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the SABC News channel.
Palisa, good afternoon to you and the viewers and listeners, and thanks for inviting me to be on your program.
Thank you so much for taking the time, Minister. And I suppose Ramabulana's murder once again raises concerns around the safety of students, Minister, be it on or off campus. Yes,
let me start, Palisa, by expressing my condolences to the family of Palisa Ramabulana, as well as her colleagues and friends, for this dastardly act, which I strongly condemn very much on behalf of our own department. But I must say that, Palisa, the problem we are dealing with here, I'll tell you just now about some of the things that we are doing, is that firstly, it's a broader societal problem, which in fact requires that all sectors of society need to stand up. You need the university, you need government and the police. We need communities to stand up to really confront this problem of gender-based violence. Unless we do so, we are not going to win this fight. Of course, having understood that, on our side as the department, what we've done is that we've just completed a very extensive process of consulting on policies on gender in our post-school education and training institutions, especially universities and TVET colleges. And what we've found, by the way, even in this, is that some institutions have policies on gender and others do not. Some run awareness programs, others do not. Which already, as the first step, what it's telling us is that with these proposals that are on the table, the first thing we must do is that we expect each and every post-school education and training institution to have a policy and also programs on gender awareness. Because, yes, we must condemn violence, but we mustn't start just there. We must start with confronting the many gender stereotypes and patriarchal behavior that we still find in society and in our institutions. That's why gender-based violence should also be confronted by promoting gender awareness generally. We are hoping then to come up, not that we are hoping, we will by March next year come up then with a finalized policy that would be overall policy for higher education and colleges, but also that policy will guide institutional engagements. And we will require all of our institutions, whether it be a SETA or a university or a college, to actually have a policy. The second thing that we've done is that we've engaged with the university vice-chancellors in particular and agreed that the issue of security and safety in our institutions needs to be addressed. And to this end, they've also met with Minister Bheki Cele to discuss this matter, including an agreement and understanding that universities themselves actually need to reach out to communities in which they are located and be able to work together with them. For instance, this arises, amongst other things, from a number of students who get raped and assaulted on their way between where they are staying in privately owned accommodation sometimes to the institution. University of Zululand, there was that problem, you know, that the students were being harassed by the community, especially those who were staying outside. Yes. So that's what we are actually going to be pushing for. And also we have asked our institutions to cooperate with the investigation that is being undertaken and hearings by the Commission on Gender Equality, specifically focusing on our institutions as to what the causes of this are and so on. Of course, this should not detract us that law enforcement agencies need actually to be very tough, and we are very pleased, by the way, to hear that someone has been arrested, you know, with regard to the brutal murder of Precious from Capricorn TVET College. So they should actually be able to do our work. But at the same time, we have to work in partnership with everyone. Even in institutions, we want to reach out to all components of all our institutions, whether it's student representative councils, students, political organizations, academic staff, trade unions, and everybody, so that we are able to mobilize to say, we are actually going to be able to confront this. Okay. The other measure, Palisa,
if I can just
that I just need.
Yeah, if I can just come in there, Minister, because you made mention of the fact that you've met with some of the vice chancellors, but the reality is safety in this instance will only be improved or prioritized for students who are on campus. What about those who are off campus, Minister? Because some of them are off campus for the fact that there is limited residential area or accommodation within campus. So the question is, how is the department addressing that issue of lack or rather not sufficient accommodation within the campus itself?
When I was appointed in 2009 as Minister of Higher Education and Training, the first thing I did in 2010 was to undertake a very comprehensive study to look at what's the shortage of student accommodation. So we are absolutely clear. At the time, we found out that we're having just under 20% of our students in university-owned accommodation. Government has subsequently set aside billions of rands, and we've built new university-owned accommodation, in some instances with TVET colleges as well. But the fact of the matter, Palisa, is that the challenge then needs to be tackled in a multifaceted way, because government does not have money to ensure that we house at least 80% of our university or college students in accommodation owned by universities and colleges. So we have to work with privately provided accommodation. What we have done, we have a very clear policy, for instance, around standards that have got to be maintained and provided by that privately owned accommodation, that those must be learning spaces, not just for students to sleep, which is important, but also they must be safe. So at least we have set certain standards. But as I have said, we are working with the police, and we are working with the private security companies, many of whom are employed by the universities, on how we ensure security of students, for instance, both on campus and off campus, whilst we are building more of university or college-owned accommodation. So that is actually going to be important. That's why we are saying we need to partner with institutions themselves to also forge and build relations with communities where they are located, so that students are not only safe inside campus, they are also safe outside campus as part of general safety of everyone, in particular women. If you look at the tragic death of Uyinene, you know, from the University of Cape Town, was lured into the post office outside the campus, which underlines what I'm saying, that we need a partnership beyond and broader than just our institutions, much as we must also focus on institutions, as I have outlined to you in terms of what we are doing. But we are putting in more money into student accommodation.
Very quickly, Minister, we've run out of time. I just want to go back to the issue of programs that are aimed at addressing the scourge of gender-based violence. Why must we wait until March next year, Minister? Because we are facing this scourge right now. Students on and off campus are losing their lives. Why do we not have the programs in place, perhaps from the beginning of next year? Because I do remember in my time when I was in tertiary, the department, both education and health department, they ran an HIV program. I think it was on a weekly basis. Why do we not have such now? Because I would believe this is a crisis and it requires an urgent attention.
But yes, I know we do have programs. We do have higher education aids that you are talking about. We have now elevated it actually to now become higher education health, because we have also got to deal with the issue of depression, the issue of mental health. Those programs are there, and a number of our institutions also have got policies and implementation plans on dealing with violence in institutions and gender-based violence. The reason why we are looking at March is not to start from scratch, but after having done this exercise of drafting this document and consulting, because we have to hear what the views of the people are, then we now want to come with not a piecemeal but a comprehensive strategy around safety and security and tackling the issue of gender discrimination and gender-based violence in the entire sector. So that is why we've done this public consultation. We are now pulling together all the views. That's what we are going to be doing over the next 2 months, in essence. And then not only pulling them together and then coming up with a comprehensive policy, but we are continuing with many such interventions that we are already making. Like, as I have said, our institutions have met with the Minister of Police. We have also been engaging the private security industry through its institution called SIRA to actually discuss all these matters so that we are able to make our institutions safe. The only sad part, Palisa, to be quite honest, is that beautiful campuses, mostly of our institutions, have now become like prisons. You know, in a way defeating the idea of an open learning space. But there is nothing we can do, because we have to improve security, because student and staff security remains a priority of this government and my
Minister,
department.
We'll leave it at that. We thank you so much for taking the time. That's the Higher Education and Training Minister, Dr. Blade Nzimande, joining us live from our studios in Pretoria. We'll certainly be continuing with this topic, looking into gender-based violence at institutions of higher learning in a short while. We'll speak to SASCO and the EFF's Students Command.